Bloody hell, he's recording again. Hello, it's Bulbs here of the Bulbahampton Wanderers. Back for season 4 of the Hoenn Draft League. Now, I know I haven't uploaded in a while. Basically, I think my last video was halfway through season 2 of the Hoenn Draft League. That league, I just kind of lost a little bit of interest towards the end. I played it out, made the playoffs, got knocked out. I think it's the first round of the playoffs. I just kind of, making videos for that probably wasn't so much of a priority for me, so I just kind of dropped off on that. Season 3 rolled round. I was having a lot of issues with with my laptop, so I was struggling to record, and then I actually ended up dropping out of that league after about 3 or 4 weeks, just because again lost interest. Life sort of got in the way. Couldn't really find the time for it, so I dropped out of that league. But now we are back, season 4 of the Hoenn Draft League. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think a lot of the mistakes I've made before is that I've been almost too competitive with it, with these kind of draft league formats, which I don't think that's particularly a bad thing. But I know that for myself, my competitive streak is really quite a weakness for me, to the point where if I'm losing a match, I'm genuinely, I hate my life. I'm not enjoying it. So I've taken a step away from things. I've reassessed, and this isn't to say that I'm not taking this league seriously or this season seriously, because I absolutely am. But I'm just going to try and have a little bit more fun with it. And you'll see that with my draft. It's not, again, I cannot stress, I'm not taking things, like, I'm not too relaxed with things. I'm going to still try and enjoy being competitive and stuff. I just, that's the key thing. I just want to enjoy it more, and try not to get too salty when I lose. So after that quick little intro, I'm just going to jump straight away into the Bulbahampton Wanderers lineup for season 4 of the Hoenn Draft League. So yeah, to kick things off, with the first round picks, things that I should note is, firstly, I was 9th pick in this draft out of a 14 team draft. So I was kind of like a mid to late pick. It's probably one of the worst spots you can get in a draft. Being quite late on obviously means that some of the best picks go in the first few rounds, but still being sort of towards the middle means that you can't get too much synergy with picks from separate rounds. But yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't really have too much of a plan going into this. We did our classic tactic of starting the draft like a week early or a few days earlier than we were meant to. So I didn't really have time to smash out any kind of draft plan. I think I was at work when the draft started. So yeah, with the first round pick, I just went for. I looked at the list. I knew I wanted an S tier pick. I wanted an S tier offensive pick, just something to scare people really. And I went with the Pokemon that I've actually used before in the first season of the Home Draft League, something that didn't end up on YouTube. But I went with Dracovish. Now, this thing has obviously been, I'm pretty sure it's banned from Smogon. It like dominates the VGC scene, to my knowledge, or at least it did when it first debuted, when Sword and Shield came out. I haven't really been too much into competitive of late, but I can imagine it's still being either banned or just terrifying. Yeah, obviously, if this thing, Choice Banded Fisher's Rend, can two-hit kill, I would imagine pretty much everything, right? Obviously, in a draft league format, it's a little bit less efficient, just because it is easier to plan for it. A major offensive threat like this, your opposition can either bring like a water absorb mon, some kind of a fairy that resists water, something like that. Like Drakefish is absolutely something, especially with the existence of moves like freeze dry as well. It's something that can be countered, which I found quite difficult when I had it in the first season of the Home Draft League, because I didn't actually use it very well. Almost similar to when I had Nagnadel in the second season, which was on YouTube. Yeah, I wasn't too great with Dracovish, and I'm still not expecting to be too great with Dracovish. The main reason I'm picking this is, firstly, so I don't have to face it, and secondly, it means that, like, yeah, it's relatively easy to prep for, but it means it puts a lot of pressure on my opponent to have to prep for it. Which means that other threats can sort of almost like sneak their way into my team, and hopefully the opponent will over prep for Dracovish and maybe, gloss over some of my other threats that I've got coming. Yeah, I'm not saying that he's there like as a distraction, because he's absolutely going to hold up on its own merit. I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably like top 3 kills in my team. I'm not expecting it to be top kills in my team, but it's just a wall breaker. Like, it is that it's a definitive wall breaker. Even stuff like Toxpex. If you 2-3 hit KOs a Toxapex without the need for setup, which is just beautiful in and of itself. Obviously it gets Strong Jaw, which will boost the Vicious Rend. I think it also does like Psychic Fang, Ice Fang, stuff like that. But yeah, obviously it's mainly there for Vicious Rend. And Sand Rush, which is an ability which I may or may not be taking advantage of in this league. Going through its moves, don't spend too much time on this. We all know what Dracovish does; it just hits with power. But if we just look at its like physical moves, which is all we're really going to be using, stuff like Facade. If we get burned, that might be quite nice. But obviously, you're really looking at Vicious Rend, Ice Fang. You're looking at Psychic Fangs. You're looking at Outrage. Stone Edge as well. It's not quite nice coverage. It's obviously, I think it's all Earthquake. Yes, it gets Stone Edge Earthquake coverage, which is always really nice on offensive mon. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about Dracovish. So this little boy is going to be shiny because look how beautiful that shiny is. A black and white shiny is really nice. And this is Sid Vicious, the same name that I had in the first season of the Hoenn Draft League. Yeah, Sid Vicious. Next up. After this, I just wanted to draft offense in the first couple rounds. I can build my defense around the offensive core that I draft. So I just want to get my first few picks. I just want them to be like purely hard hitting Pokemon that I don't want to have to face. Pokemon that I've used before, and that leads me into Excadrill. Obviously, I had a Sand team or like a pseudo Sand team in the second season of the Hoenn Draft League. Sandrush Excadrill is it's just really nice. But even without the sand, it now gets a speed boost from Rapid Spin, which makes it like a really potent hazard remover. But that can also then switch into offense. Set up with Swords Dance. Obviously, it's got like 135, I believe, base attack. Obviously, Earthquake, Iron Head. It's it's not the most versatile of mons, but my god, it always does the job. It always does the job, does Tiny. It leaves me with Hazard Setter and a Hazard Remover. I still believe that, like, granted, I am Gen 6 deck. This was probably the best Hazard Remover in Gen 6. I still believe it's one of the best Hazard Removers in Gen 8. It's just, yeah, it's a really good threat. In terms of moves that it gets, again, I'm just going to look through physical moves. Stuff like Earthquake, or I believe it can go for like high horsepower if my opponent's got a grassy terrain, which is really important. Poison, I'll say Poison Jab for the fairies, but obviously Iron Head is for the fairies. Poison Jab for grass types, I guess, bulky grass types. Yeah, I'll probably not ever really be running too much more other than like Earthquake, Iron Head, Rapid Spin, Stealth Rock, Swords Dance. Like, pick any 4 of those 5 moves, and that's pretty much going to be my my set every week. But yeah, it does a job. It does an obvious job, does a predictable job, but it does a job. And moving on, I'm just going to double check my notes here because I've actually written notes for this draft plan. I did that so I'd stop rambling, and I'm not even using my notes and I'm still rambling. So good job, Luke. Another thing I've written here is obviously ground type electric community is a really important thing to have to stop the Volt Switch spam. So I get to this point in the draft. Obviously, you've seen it yourself. You've seen Sandrush there. You've seen Sandrush there. It wasn't my plan to draft Weather, and it wasn't my plan to draft Sand. I'd literally drafted these two because I was like, oh yeah, it's 2 mons that I've used before. I know how to use them. But it was literally after I drafted Excadrill. It was only at that point that I realised, hang on a second, I've got to. I've absolutely got to, right? So it wasn't my plan to draft Sand. I just had these first 2, and then I realised, wait a second, let's do it. So yeah, Hippowdon. It was between Hippowdon and Gigalith. I was also tempted by Sandaconda. I really was. I really liked that Pokemon, and I did use it well in the second season of the Hoenn Draft League. But I wanted a more efficient Sandset, a more reliable Sandset, really. So Hippowdon, or obviously keeping the name from the season 2, Hippolytoad. Yeah, he's in. I am now extremely happy with this team. Obviously because of the synergy with 2 Sand Rushes. This is a really nice Sand team. I went for Hippowdon over Gigalith, purely because of Slack Off. Yeah, I just think as this is one of the first sort of walls that I'm drafting, I just want reliable recovery. Obviously, Gigalith is a lot cheaper, and I probably could have had like a nicer sort of points dispersal. throughout my draft, but I just wanted the more reliable recovery. This thing just functions as a really good defensive wall. 108 HP, 118 defense. It's just really, really nice. It also functions really well as another hazard setter, and also whereas it's got raw, it's it's a really good phaser. Raw and whirlwind. So which one am I going to bring? But yeah, we all know what this thing does, and it does it well. It's just a really good defensive wall sandsetter. Coming up after that, this is when things got a little bit controversial. I probably spoke about it when I played Shad in the Hoenn Draft League Season 2. I have had a long-standing rivalry, not just with Shad, but with a certain other weather setter. When I had Dracovish in the first season of the Hoenn Draft League, I went with like a pseudo rain team, and the rain was only really there to add even more power to the Fisher's Rend. Like a choice banded Fisher's Rend in the rain is, the calcs on it are insane. So I was thinking of drafting Pelipper. The only thing with Pelipper is that it's like, I think it's like 120 or 140 points, as opposed to this pick, which is 100 points. So anyway, we've got this long-standing rivalry with Politoed, and I'm promising you right now, Shad, if you're watching this, I'm promising you right now, I didn't pick this for the memes. I didn't pick this just to annoy you. I've since found out that he was literally about to draft this Pokemon a couple turns after me. And he got annoyed by that. Shad, I insist, if you value a Pokemon that highly, draft it sooner. Don't get annoyed at me for drafting it. Anyway, we brought in Politoed. I cannot believe that Luke took Politoed, but he did. And obviously the memes behind it are quite fun. But I've got dual weather now. The only downside of a weather team in draft format is it can be quite easy to prep for. If you bring dual weather, which one do you prep for? Am I going to bring a Sandrush Dracovish, or am I going to bring a Drizzle rain boosted Dracovish? Let's just check my notes here. I've got here, I didn't just pick this to piss off Shad. Like literally I just needed to save points on the Pelipper. Obviously the thing that Pelipper does have is the reliable recovery and roost. But honestly, what Shad has shown me with Politoed, obviously sweeping me 6-0 with a belly drum set. He got like the choice specs weather ball that he brought in season 2. If anything, Shad, you've just tempted me to pick this mon. You've highlighted all of its strengths, and I think that it can be a little bit more versatile than Pelipper. Even stuff like Perisong Whirlpool, do you get? You don't get Whirlpool. Oh, you do get Whirlpool, cool. Perisong Whirlpool, something like quite nice like that. It's got quite a nice niche in this kind of format. It's just it's mainly just there as a weather set. So now I've got the dual weather, and also it means that I don't have to face Politoed, which is really, really nice for me. Next up is this is a bit of a theme of my draft, is, well, or at least the first few picks of the draft. Pokemon that I've drafted before. I really wanted this value pick. I think I got it as an E tier in season 2. It's only since gone up to D tier, which is rubbish. It should at least be C. It's a really, really good mon. This is the second part of my Fire, Water, Grass core, with Politoed obviously being water. Gives me a grounded poison type. It's got Chlorophyll as an ability. Not that I'm, drafting Sun or anything. So I got the effect spore there. This is a Morphophallus, the Vileplume. It's got it doesn't have the best defenses, but it's got really good defensive typing. It's got stuff like Leech Seed. It's got the reliable recovery in both Strength Sap and Synthesis. It's got stuff like Sleep Powder. It's got Aromatherapy, which allows me to have a bit of a Cleric. I think it's the kind of mon that it can just fit into any team. If you picked 5 Pokemon to match up against your opponent and you're struggling for a 6th, this can kind of fill any hole. Whether you want it to be like a more bulky offensive variant, whether you want it to be like a Leech Seeder, a Cleric, it can work on either of the defensive sides. It's just a really good budget pick. What else have I got written here? The other thing is that I really wanted Whimsicott. And I had 2 draft plans essentially. One which led off with Whimsicott to complete the Fairy Dragon Steel core, and it would also complement Politoed quite nicely for the Firewater Grass. But the rest of my draft would have been quite lackluster because I would have had to take a few like F tiers and stuff to balance out the points. And yeah, like I say, I'm not disappointed with Vileplume at all. I think when I had it in season 2 of the Hoenn Draft League, I think a lot of people either underestimated him or like genuinely just appreciated the fact that that was a really it was a steal for an E tier, and I still insist it's a steal for a D tier. Moving on quickly after that. What have we got next? Next up, we've got Heliolisk. I wanted something more offensive on the special side. Obviously, Heliolisk isn't like a wall breaker on the special side or anything, but with 109 special attack, 109 speed, like it does a job quite well. It's got dry skin, so it can benefit from the rain. It's got sand veil, so it can benefit from the sand. It's got solar power, so it can benefit from the sun. Not that I've drafted sun. But imagine if I did draft Sun, that with the chlorophyll on Vileplume, maybe this would be quite nice. Try weather team, who's to say? But yeah, Heliolisk or Summer Solstice, as it's called. Maui, that one's for you. This thing, I needed a little bit more Switch Initiative Pokemon. I think after my entire draft, I've got 2 Pokemon that can switch out with U-turn, Volt Switch, Flip Turn, any of those kind of moves. So I'm absolutely lackluster in that department. But this Heliolisk is actually a really good Volt Switcher. Gets it's giving me a Ghost immunity, which I guess is all right. But yeah, it's gets Stab on Hyper Voice, which is quite nice. Gives me a Thunder Waver for speed control, because one thing about this draft, which I will show you at the end, is that speed isn't its strong suit. Got 100% accurate Thunders is another reason why I wanted a specially offensive electric type Pokemon. 100% accurate Thunders in the Drizzled Rain, of course. Otherwise, we've got Thunderbolt, we've got Weather Ball actually. That's definitely worth bearing in mind. One thing I will say is that this is a Cut Moves are banned season, so no hidden powers, unfortunately. But yeah, no, this thing's pretty good. It actually gets agility, which I've just noticed. Don't really know what I'm going to do with that, but it's worth bearing in mind. Also, it's got Glare and Thunder Wave, so I don't know why I was talking about Thunder Wave earlier. Anyway, I've got to stop getting distracted by things that I'm seeing. So, oh no, I've done what Shad did on his team builder. I've done a team, not a box. 1 second, let me fix that. Here we go, and we are back. Now this, I think this is the point in the draft when the draft order gets a little bit hazy. These ones that you can see on the screen now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they were my first 6 picks. After this I drafted, I think it was Mega Houndoom, and a few others. I had a couple of F tiers. It wasn't the strongest draft. After I drafted Mega Houndoom, I completely changed my mind. I wanted to go for a lower tier Mega to give me more points to spend elsewhere. So I think the rest of this draft is all trades that I made in the free agency, in the grace period after the draft ended. So there's not too much of a thought process of things that I'm drafting as I'm drafting them at this point in the draft. Anyway, if any of that makes sense. So the first 6 picks were obviously picked throughout the draft, so I had to think about like potential future picks and snipes and stuff like that. At this point, I knew everyone's teams, and I could I made my next picks in the free agency. I made them accordingly. So I said that I drafted the Mega Houndoom first. After I drafted the Mega Houndoom, I realised that regular Houndoom was missing off the HDL document, and the rules stipulate, which I was about to say rather bizarrely so, but like it makes sense. I'm not going to hold that against you, Maui. But the rules stipulate that if a Pokemon isn't in the document, it's automatically an F tier. I tried to abuse that at the start of the draft by drafting Naganadel, because Maui forgot to put it on the ban list, but obviously that didn't stand. Like an F tier Naganadel would have been hilarious. I managed to get regular Houndoom as an F tier pick. Let me just, I'm going back here just so I can compare it to the Mega, because I had the Mega originally. I've lost a little bit of speed, lost a lot of special offense, especially in the Sun. Not that I've drafted Sun, but yeah, like this is the fire part. Well, this is one of the fire parts of my Firewater Grass Core. I don't think it's ever a Pokemon I'm really gonna bring, nicknamed Kyleng, because obviously Houndoom's based on Cerberus. Kyleng's an agent of Cerberus in Mass Effect. Anyway, yeah, I mean this thing ain't great. It gets Flash Fire, which is quite nice actually. And yeah, like I imagine choice specs with 110 special attack, like it functions as a relatively decent, not quite a wall breaker, but you know it punches a hole in some teams. Like I imagine I'll probably bring this maybe once or twice, but like a fully evolved Pokemon being F tier in any scenario is always something that you must like consider. I know a couple of other people in the league had noticed that this thing was F tier, so I kind of just wanted to get a jump on them. Yeah, I guess like Nasplot's set up to get agility. It doesn't look like it does, no. But yeah, it's a Will-O-Wisper. Like I say, I mean, to be fair, Destiny Bond looks quite nice on there. It gets stuff like Counter as well. Does it get the special version of Counter, which I can't remember what it's called? Mirror Coat? It doesn't look so. But yeah, no, this thing's decent. Like, does it get Sucker Punch? I believe, yes, Sucker Punch for a nice bit of priority. Like I say, this thing isn't going to come off, and it's not going to set the world alight. No pun intended. But you know, he's a decent little pick. Next up, not that I'm drafting a Tri-Weather core, but I'm just going to type it out right now. We got Ninetales. Yeah, it was after picking Vileplume, I sort of realised, hang on, I could actually do something quite fun here with Tri-Weather. I will say now I did have a draft plan involving quad weather, but I thought that was a little bit too memey. Like I say, I want to enjoy this season. I would also like to get a win or two, maybe. I don't think the fact that this draft is tri-weather and quite memey, I don't think that makes it particularly unviable. I'll get to that when I've finished going through the draft. But yeah, we got Ninetales. It's a shiny Ninetales. Obviously, it's a Silver Fox, so this is George Clooney. Yeah, I think of the three weathers, I'll be bringing Sun probably the least, but it's a really nice option to have in the arsenal. Again, if two weathers is relatively difficult to plan for, three weathers is even more difficult to plan for. I think my opponents will often be looking more at the rain sets and the sand sets, so I think I could probably get a couple of sunsets, like you know, under the radar without my opponent particularly overly planning for it, which is quite nice. It also explains why I went for Heliolisk in the end, because Solar Power Heliolisk is absolutely a wall breaker at that point. Like choice specs Solar Power. I don't know if I'd go choice specs because I might need to go for the Scarf Speed, but like whatever I do, like I think that the Sun adds a hell of a lot of viability to Heliolisk that it didn't previously have. It's also why I did draft the Mega Houndoom originally before then wussing out and going for the regular Houndoom. Because obviously Mega Houndoom in the Sun would be quite nice. I'm not saying I won't bring a Chlorophyll Volplume set. I'm not willing to say that just yet. Maybe I will. I think it gets Growth as well. Growth, yes, you do, which doubles attack and special attack in the Sun, which is quite nice. Yeah, like I say, of the three weathers, Sun is definitely the one that I'll be using the least, but it's a really nice option to have. Another thing that I should note is that I could have gone for the Torkoal instead. I think Ninetales was about 20 points cheaper, maybe even 40 points cheaper. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head. The reason I went for Ninetales over Torkoal is because even though Torkoal functions as a really nice hazard setter and hazard remover, I've got decent hazard setting and removing options already. Torkoal's a really nice defensive tank, but so is Hippowdon. In terms of speed, Torkoal has got like 20 base speed or something like that, whereas Ninetales is sitting on 90, no, it's sitting on 100. And like I say, my draft is quite slow, so even just having a 100 base speed, I think it's the second fastest Pokemon in my team. That was kind of important. Looking again, I've got another Flash Firemon, just in case I don't decide to bring the Sun, but I want to bring part of a Fire type anyway for a Fire immunity, if any of that makes sense. That was a bit of a ramble. But yeah, I actually think that Ninetales fits into this team quite well. I think it fits into this team better than Torkoal does, which obviously benefits me well because it's a cheaper pick. So, next up, this is when I was really Like I say, I was dipping into the free agency. I had about, at this point after the draft, when I was looking at my potential trading picks, I think I had 4 draft plans in total. This one, however, features a Skarmory. When I got rid of Mega Houndoom and swapped it out for a lowest tier Mega, freed up a lot of points. I think Skarmory was a B tier or maybe even an A tier. I think it's like 140 points off the top of my head. But yeah, Knives Out is it's a really good it's a really good Pokemon is what I was going to say, but obviously you know that. Yeah, sure, I've got the double steal with Excadrill and Skarmory, but one of them's offensive, one of them's defensive, and the fire weakness that's shared between them doesn't really bother me so much because I've got the Drizzle, I've got Rain, I've got Dracovish, which quad resists it, I've got Politoed, which essentially quad resists it. So that's quite nice. The only other weakness that Skarmory has is Electric, which is absolutely ruled out by Excadrill and Hippowdon. Yeah, so I think even though I have 2 steel type Pokemon, I think that they do both function in this team. Obviously, Sturdy would be the ability that we look at this point. Yeah, this Pokemon, it suits me really well. Looking through the team, I did have a bit of a ground weakness forming with Excadrill and Heliolisk and any one of the 2 fire types. So yeah, I definitely wanted either a Levitate Mon or a Flying type Mon. This gives me another hazard removing option, so there's a lot less pressure on Excadrill. Also gives me Spikes as well as Stealth Rock, so I've finally got a second type of hazard. Yeah, this thing's quite nice. Like I say, I've really like reliable recovery in my walls. I've now got it with Hippowdon, with Vileplume, and with Skarmory, which is really nice. Yeah, obviously gets phasing again with Whirlwind. I suppose this and Hippowdon sort of do the same kind of thing, so there's probably not going to be many times when I bring both of them to a match, because they're both sort of like defensive walls with hazard setting potential. But yeah, I do think the Skarmory really, really works well in this team. It's nice to have a defensive variant of a Steel type for the Fairy Dragon Steel, because yeah, I believe that in cores like that, with Fairy Dragon Steel especially, it's important to have 2 bulky, 1 offensive. This allows me to have an offense in Dracovish and then bulk with Skarmory and my Fairy type that's coming up, which puts a lot less pressure on Excadrill to be bulky, if that makes any kind of sense. So, who have we got next? Next up, basically in my original draft plan that had the Mega Houndoom, I'd have 2 F-tier Pokemon. One of them was Wartortle. I didn't actually think that was a bad pick at all. I picked it, and even a lot of people in the chat were saying like, oh, actually that works with the team really well. Like Wartortle's a really good F-tier Pokemon. But then when I got points freed up to be able to spend in higher tiers, I didn't really want to switch out Wartortle. So for that reason, it made sense to just upgrade it to Blastoise. Obviously, this thing gets Rain Dish as a hidden ability, so it works quite well with the rain setting, but it doesn't rely on it, which is quite nice. If I'm saying that Fisher's Rend in the rain is scary, imagine Shell Smash Blastoise in the rain. That is also really bloody scary. Also gives me a Rapid Spinner, so I believe I've now got Excadrill, Skarmory, and Blastoise as hazard removers. So Blastoise can function as a hazard remover, but it doesn't necessarily depend on it if I do want to bring a setup set. Yeah, this thing, I think it's still got decent stats even when it's a non-megad. Especially attacking great, but obviously after the potential Shell Smash, that will boost up. It's got really nice, really solid defenses actually. For a water type, obviously water's really good defensive typing as it is. For a bulky water, Blastoise actually works quite well. And just like I was saying with Skarmory, it allows my Fairy Dragon Steel to be 2 bulk, 1 offense. Blastoise allows my Fire Water Grass to be 2 bulky, 1 offense. Puts a lot less pressure on the Dracovish, much like Skarmory did with the Excadrill, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm just going to have a little quick look through these moves because I haven't really looked at too much else that he does. A Curse set might be quite fun. It gets Dragon Tail for another bit of phasing. It gets Haze as well. Stop the setup. Does it get Body Press? It gets Body Press and it gets Iron Defense. That might be quite fun. It gets Reflect. Does it get Light Screen? I don't see a Light Screen. It gets Reflect. It gets Refresh. I was about to say that makes it a Cleric, but obviously that only affects itself, so it doesn't. But yeah, honestly, even with stuff like, oh, imagine Choice Specs Water Spout in the rain. Weather Ball as well, something that I'm absolutely going to be using on a lot of Pokemon this season. Thank you very much, Shad, for that. Aqua Ring might be quite nice. Aqua Ring Rain Dish makes this thing difficult to kill. Aqua Ring Rain Dish Leftovers. That sounds fun. Stuff like Yawn as well. Quite nice for almost like a pseudo phasing kind of method. Yeah, Blastoise or Trinex. Yeah, I kind of like it. Trinex is a weird name. I don't know why I'm going into this, but I'll tell you. I've just finished A Link to the Past for the second time, I think. One of the final bosses in Turtle Rock is called Trinex, and I literally had just finished that boss, and then I drafted a turtle, and I was like, well, of course I'm going to have to name this after the turtle boss from Zelda. It's a shit name, but who cares? They're all shit names. I can't name Pokemon. Anyway, last pick. I was saying that I had the Mega Houndoom, and I removed it for a lower tier Mega just for the points. In the lowest tier of Megas, I can't remember who else was in there, but there was Mega Banette, which I was so tempted by, because even without Poltergeist, Mega Banette is so good. It's definitely worth more than the tier suggests. Obviously, Prankster the Destiny Bond. Like, I could go on for days about how good Mega Banette is and how much I used it so well in Season 2 of the Hoenn Draft League, even after the Poltergeist ban. It's very tempting to go for Mega Banette, but looking through my team, I don't have a fairy. Like I was saying earlier, one of my drafts did involve Whimsicott. Yeah, after I dropped Whimsicott from the draft for Vileplume, I knew that obviously I needed a fairy type, and that fairy type has got to be Mega Ordino. It's not a Mega that I've ever used in draft format, but I have used it in laddering in the past. And Peter Rabbit, yes, I am 5 years old. Peter Rabbit is he's really good. This is a league where we don't have to Mega Evolve on the first turn. Mega Evolve. The best thing about Mega Ordino not having to Mega Evolve straight away is I still get the Regenerator. So I can Mega Evolve when I want the extra bulk and the fairy typing, but if I just want to like restore a bit of HP, if I want to switch out, like I can get the Regenerator boost. Regeneration, which is one of the best abilities in Pokemon, and I'm kind of good that I didn't go for any more Regenerator mons. But so yeah, at this point in the draft, I've got written in my notes here. This was like the last Pokemon that I decided upon. I needed a low tier Mega. I needed a Fairy type. I needed a Cleric, and I needed some kind of especially defensive Pokemon. This thing ticks all those boxes, and also like I don't care if it's a low tier Mega. I'm probably going to bring it pretty much every week because obviously Fairy types are essential anyway. Yeah, Mega Banette. I brought that pretty much every week, even though it's a low tier Mega. I think that this thing is really quite good. Just looking through its moves, obviously it gets Carmine set up. It gets nice. Fairy Stab, it gets obviously Heal Bell, and I believe it gets Wish if we scroll down far enough. Yes, it does. It gets the Yawn, it gets a Trick Room, which might be quite nice. It gets Thunder Wave for speed control. It gets a hell of a lot of stuff. It gets Reflect and Light Screen. I didn't even realise until just now that it gets those. It gets Knockoff. Yeah, the only thing that's lacking is like a reliable recovery, but Wish Protect is obviously there. Healing Bush as well. I'm probably going to use that quite a lot. Quite a lot. I can only use it once. Yeah, no, I'm actually really happy with this Pokemon. 103 base HP with 126 in both defenses means that it is really bulky. This thing will probably function as a specially defensive wall in pretty much every week I bring it, because that's one thing that I am lacking in my draft. I'll say one thing, I'm lacking a lot in this draft. One of the major things that I'm lacking in this draft is that I've got Skarmory and Hippowdon for the physical defense. I don't have much by way of special defense, so this thing will have to function as a specially defensive mon for a fair amount of the time. Pardon me. The only downside for this Mega is that I kind of wanted a fairy type to cancel out my fighting weakness, which is a little bit glaring with Excadrill, Heliolisk, Houndoom, but obviously the normal counteracts the fairy resistance to fighting, so it's neutral to fighting, but like, that's fine. Another consideration was Wigglytuff, but I could have gone Wigglytuff, Mega Banette, but at that point I think I'm forsaking the Houndoom pick, and I just couldn't resist. Like I say, a fully evolved Pokemon for 20 points from the F tier. I am quite happy with this. And yeah, that rounds out the draft. So, just switch over to this tab here. This is what I'm rocking with, just so you can get like a better overview of it. just got in my overall notes here. Obviously, it's a weather meme team, but I think that this. Firstly, I think it actually for a meme team, it actually is quite good. It does have a fair few threats, and it might be quite difficult to prep for. So it's not just like a full meme kind of team. I think that all the Pokemon, apart from I'm not supposed to say apart from Heliolisk, but no, even that works fine. I think every Pokemon in this team works without the said weather. I could have gone for like a low tier Swift Swimmer or something like that. Um, but I think going for Pokemon like Blastoise and Houndoom instead, like they function without without the weather. Like yeah, a sun boosted Houndoom is a lot more scary, but Houndoom works well enough anyway. Same with Excadrill. You can bring the Sandrush set, or you can go bring a Mold Breaker set. Dracovish, you can bring the Sandrush set, or you can bring a Strong's Draw set. Like I think that this team, it just works well. The only sort of a couple of downsides with Synergy is the fact that Vileplume's got Synthesis, which obviously in the sun we're all good, in the sand or the rain we're all bad. So it's got its drawbacks, but I think that it just works really well as both a weather team, a meme weather team, and just sort of without weather. My opponent could prep for loads of weather and I don't even bring it. I was another thing that I was tempted to draft was Golduck because it gets the Cloud 9, which stops my opponent from picking it up, and also gets Swift Swim, and it might be quite fun to use. But I went Blastoise instead, so yeah, kind of makes sense. Yeah, what else? I think the big weakness of this team is right here, this square here. Obviously, you can see that I've sorted the Pokemon here by their base speed. My fastest Pokemon is 109 speed. I genuinely think after a few weeks I might have to make a couple trades just to boost that up a little bit. Yeah, it does kind of scare me. I do have the stuff like Sandrush, Excadrill. I can stick choice scarfs on everything. I think that Shad coined the phrase when he said that speed control does not make up for speed tiers or something along those lines. Speaking of speed tiers, I think the tiers themselves aren't bad. I don't have like a Mon in the 60s, and I've only got one Mon in the 80s and 90s, but like it's relatively well spaced out. But I think for the most part, looking at the spacing between my speed, it's honestly not too bad. The only weakness is obviously the fact that my fastest Mon is 109, but I guess that's just something we have to deal with. Here's two glaring weaknesses in types. This is why I drafted the Skarmory. It's my only ground resist, which is another reason why I wanted the Whimsicott. But I figured that having a grounded poison was a little bit more important. But yeah, I think having Skarmory is just vital for this team. Again, looking at the fighting weakness there, I've only got one resistant Vileplume, but Vileplume can work on either of the defensive sides, so fighting doesn't particularly worry me too much. And also, I've just got stuff like Hippowdon, which can, I would imagine, eat a fair few fighting hits as it is, just based on its physical defense alone. Yeah, I don't have a spin blocker in this team or something that completely immune to fighting, which is why Mega Banette would have been quite nice. I might have to, like I say, after a few weeks, I'll probably make a few trades to switch up this team. Maybe I'll drop down to 2 weathers, and that frees up space to, fill some more of the holes in my team. But like, it's decent, right? So I'm saying, like, I'm not going to come into this draft saying like, yeah, this is the best team I've ever drafted, or yeah, this is like I'm going to win every game. But like, it's decent. Yeah, just looking at how here moves to watch for, I've got 3 hazard removers, I've got 3 hazard setters with 2 different types of hazards, which is absolutely fine in my books. I don't really play too much of a hazard game anyway. This is what I was saying earlier about having only 2 Mons with Switch Initiative, and one of them's Flip Turn, which I'm probably not going to bring too much anyway, but like I can work around that, it's fine. I've got some decent speed control here with Thunder Wave, which means that my speed tiers are a little bit less of a weakness for me. Got 2 Clerics, which is really nice, and a Wish Passer. We've got Taunt users as well. I've only got 1 knockoff user. I imagine I'll probably bring that a fair few weeks, and Fake Out is another move that I put on there just because priority is important. So yeah, that is the team. I think tonight we're going to be recording some power rankings. It's going to be really interesting to see what the people have to say about my team. Like I say, I'm expecting to be quite low down in a lot of power rankings. I'm probably gonna, if I do my own rankings, I'll probably be fair and be honest and put myself relatively low down. But I still insist, like, as far as weather teams go, this is a really good one. And as far as meme tri-weather teams go, this is probably the best that you can get. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the season. Hopefully, I can pull off some fire sets, some fun shenanigans. Hopefully, if people expect me to bring rain, I'll bring sun, stuff like that. And yeah, I'm actually genuinely looking forward to the season. So yeah, I'll see you for week 1.